Hang on. Can I just say something? Thank you for actually setting the clock both times you booted up the game. A lot of people don't take that step seriously, they just hit the clock at 12, call it a day. You're actually taking the time to set the clock, and I appreciate that. That's how I know that you care about this experience, and you're paying attention. Don't you have any way of knowing if the times you're setting are correct? To where we'll make a deal. Since you've been so cooperative, next time you boot up the game and see this touch screen, just set the clock to your favorite time.
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Achievement unlocked, welcome back.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Miss little things back.
The bucket made Stanley want to be a better man and a better co-worker. In time, perhaps, he would become both of those things. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers.
Huh. Well...
Stanley, we must move on from this broom closet, simply because I have no... Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Rebooted the game entirely and...
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation. The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine. Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
I have a plane here. So I'm not sure what...
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine. Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His
Well, I
one
wish there
friend
was
in the
a
entire
skip
world.
button, maybe like
At
a
this
fast
point,
forward
he
button.
could trust no one
Would be cool.
except for the bucket. But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system. But at the last second, the bucket jumped in and pressed the button to turn on the controls. Stanley gasped in horror. Had this been the bucket's plan all along? To take over the machine and claim the power for itself? How could the bucket have betrayed him like this? Stanley was prepared to throw the bucket away in disgust when suddenly an image appeared upon the enormous screen. Birds. Silly, silly birds.
Oh, well, that's
the control
lovely.
buttons became active again. Stanley flipped through one video of silly birds after another, and then it dawned on him. This wasn't a mind control facility at all. It was a facility for monitoring and surveilling silly birds all over the world. The mind controls were only a facade to disguise its true intentions. Had the bucket known this all along? Stanley marveled at the metal genius in his hands, the one who had pointed him towards this incredible discovery. Stanley and the bucket never found freedom because they spent the rest of their lives here in this place, flipping through live streams of the silliest birds imaginable. Of all the possible paths his life could have taken, this one was surely the best. And Stanley was happy. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
I feel like there's more to
Stanley
find.
decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
It's one of the things about this game is that it always feels like there's something else. Oh, hey. Input is back. For some reason.
Not everyone is so lucky to have a bucket, but Stanley is a very lucky fellow. Very lucky indeed. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong.
Like we've done
Stanley
both the
took the
endings
door
that
on his
way.
left to go back, and so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door. Oh, good, Stanley. I'm glad you found your way here. I knew you'd find this place eventually. You see, your friends and I are concerned for you, Stanley. We've come
I'll kill
together
the bucket
here because
this
we
time.
care about you very much. It's this bucket
Yeah,
you're
it
carrying
feels like
around
there's something
everywhere.
else there.
The
I just
bucket
don't
isn't
know.
even from the original Stanley Parable. It's just sequel content. We're the ones that matter,
Nowhere to
Stanley.
go.
Classic characters from the first game, like the Adventure Line and the Broom Closet. Because that's what fans want from a sequel. They want more of their favorite jokes, not this bucket that they've never seen before. Yes, I know I'm the one who gave you the bucket, but you're spending too much time with it. Don't you want another story involving the Adventure Line? We could make the Adventure Line go somewhere new. Yes, that's... Whee! Look at that wacky line. Who knows where it'll go off to next? Oh, and it played some silly music as well.
Okay, but trademark in.
Now this is what the Stanley Parable is all about. Don't you remember all those great jokes from the original dialogue?
Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
Yes, it's as classic now as it was back then. Let's do it for the fans, Stanley. Let's give them more content exactly like this. But if we want to do that, you're going to have to give something. Don't you get it, Stanley? We need to get rid of the bucket.
I'm ready.
That's why I'm very proud to introduce a brand new character. This is the Bucket Destroyer. I think it'll make a wonderful new addition to the rich lore of the Stanley Parable. True, it also was not in the original game, but it's such a well-fleshed-out character with so much personality that to me it already feels as though it's been part of the cast all along. Don't you agree? Can you guess what the Bucket Destroyer does? Surely you don't need me to spell it out for you. Go ahead now, Stanley. Say goodbye to the bucket, and then pop it into the machine when you're ready.
And can I not? I can't.
Now listen to me. It's crucial that you give it the bucket. I don't know what the Bucket Destroyer will do if it can't destroy your bucket. Destroying buckets is all it knows. That is its singular personality trait. Sure, I can hear you saying, how does a character with only one personality trait deserve to join the pantheon of beloved Stanley Parable characters?
I was hoping I could actually feed it the bucket.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. It takes a lot of humility.
Maybe they
to carry
didn't
a
imagine
bucket
anyone
so
would actually
magnificent. Stanley
like,
checked his ego and then
destroy
proceeded onward.
Destroy the bucket? You're like, oh, surely no one would actually try that, right?
Tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took
just
the
jump
door
off
on his
here and
left
die?
to go back
I
to
wonder.
the meeting room. No, said the bucket.
Don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. A cargo lift, yes.
But Stanley feared that any path he walked might lead to the separation of himself and the bucket, his dearest friend. So he threw himself to his death, that they might die in one another's arms. How deeply touching.
This is how the end of my last playthrough went
What could
of
it
this
mean?
game.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Where'd the input go?
Stanley cradled the bucket in a gentle embrace. Protective,
Again, it's gone.
Yet delicate. Assertive, yet compassionate. Stanley
I put
clung
in
the
2
bucket to his
inputs,
cheek.
and then
Could his co-workers really all be gone?
it's gone. Weird.
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Can anyone think of any other paths I haven't taken?
Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was coming to a staircase. Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's
Downstairs
office.
is the endless loop.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him, but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Here are my paths. Which ones I haven't taken with the bucket. I feel like I've taken all of them. Obviously, there's some variations in those later paths, but I think they would have ended in the same way.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
Right? Like... Well, let's say I went to the
Lights
bucket zone.
rose on an
like
enormous
the
room packed
bucket
with television
game show,
screens.
and said
What
some different
horrible
stuff.
secret
Think
did
it'd
this
be the
place
same.
hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves. The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock.
I thought I could do
Everyone
something
in
with
the
those
office was
inputs,
being
but
videotaped,
where
monitored
it
like
went.
guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine. Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What
Thinking
kinds of
left path, I'm
things does a
thinking right
bucket want
path.
to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No!
I had found the
He
infinite
screamed
hole.
into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control. Never! He squeezed the bucket
I can't
tighter.
go red door,
His
blue
one
door
friend
with
in the
bucket.
entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket.
I followed the bucket's orders and
But
went
here
through the
was the
thing.
proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system.
Do not take a shot every time you hear bucket. You will die. I was hoping I could do something with these buttons. I don't know. Again, this game does it well. Makes you feel like there's something else to do, but there might not be. I think that this is for a different ending, actually. There's another way you can get to this room. This is open. there are graphs and a bunch of stuff that like show you all the other endings. So you've already done. This is only a binary option, right? Either on or off.
When at last they came to the source of the room's power, Stanley and the bucket knew it was their obligation to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
So there's no going back. There was the whole setting the time of day thing.
A soft wind blew outside and perhaps rain started, and if it did, it stopped shortly after. Stanley hoped that he would one day see weather.
It's different.
Stanley's bucket, the only co-worker he would ever truly need.
Remember there being a really cool, like,
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest, and this was not the correct way to the meeting room. But Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him,
non-Euclidean thing?
telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? Yes, Stanley thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was. How insightful the bucket turned out to be. Truly, being here with the bucket was a grand adventure. Stanley reflected on all they'd been. No, never mind. The bucket was wrong.
I unplugged the phone cord
Stanley
to start,
took the door on
actually. I
his
didn't...
left to go back to the meeting room.
You know, actually, that's a good point. I didn't unplug the phone cord with the bucket.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting
That
room.
might be different.
Go somewhere else. The cargo lift. Good.
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was
That's a good
speaking
point.
to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him,
I listened
and
to the
he
bucket, and I also
unthinkingly
jumped
did
off there.
whatever the bucket asked.
I also died, so...
In here.
Said the bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
Now pick up the phone.
Said the bucket. Whoa, hold on. Why did you unplug the phone? Were you trying to resist the bucket's orders? Stanley, I was joking. Obviously, the bucket isn't talking to you and telling you to do things. Buckets can't talk. It was a joke.
Don't you get the joke? It's funny, Stanley. A talking bucket.
Can't you see? Oh, goodness. I must have really bungled up the delivery if you actually took me seriously. Where did I mess up the joke? Should I have paused for longer or spoken quicker? Comedic timing is so difficult. I wish I were better at it. But there isn't exactly an instructional video on comedy that one can watch to fully... Oh, wait, yes, there is. It's sitting right here. Let's take a look.
What is comedic timing? What is comedic timing? How does it work? How long should it last? How can it be used to effectively silence your political enemies? And more importantly, can it be taught in its entirety within 90 seconds?
Let's see.
Thankfully, the answer to all of these questions is yes. Let's dive deeper. If you've ever told a joke or made someone laugh, in all likelihood, you did it while standing 50 to 80 centimeters from them in a room of no more than 76 degrees Fahrenheit, with one of your arms raised straight upward at a 15-degree angle from your body. These are the optimal conditions for good comedic timing. To begin the joke, start by stating and spelling your name. Next, provide a brief synopsis of the joke including the specific times at which the recipient of the joke will laugh, and then spell out your name a second time. With these steps complete, it's time to begin the humor. Speak the entire joke in no more than 18 seconds and no less than 13 and a half, pausing only for bathroom breaks when necessary. When the joke has concluded, it is customary to inform your listener that the joke is over by declaring in your loudest possible voice, "I'm Dunny with the funny." Let's practice screaming, "I'm Dunny with the funny" now.
I'm Dunny with the funny.
Good. This saying is a perfect example of expectations management, which is the cornerstone of good comedy. Finally, it's time to hand out surveys. Collecting hard data from your audience on how rapt they were throughout the joke is the only way to grow or learn as a comedian. An effective survey should be no less than 10 pages long and should include the same question reprinted several times, just to ensure the survey taker is actually paying attention and not simply filling in answers at random. And that's all there is. With these strategies at your disposal, you'll have audiences doubled over in laughter and even tripled over in laughter in no time at all. Just remember to let them stop laughing at some point, you gut-busting little scamp. After all, we're each of us needed on the front lines of the war to fight the 12-legged invader who threaten our very existence and who very likely die in a hailstorm of bullets and mandibles. All of us must be prepared to give our lives to this noble cause, just as our children must do after us, and their children after them. Godspeed, and may Earth reign supreme.
Hey, goodness, this video is a little outdated, isn't it? Well, no matter. I think the fundamentals of proper comedic timing are still as relevant today as they were back then. So with that in mind, I believe the only way forward is for us to return to the two doors and walk through all of this again, so I can try telling my story with more appropriate comedic delivery. Come along, let's head back. I can feel it. This time, I'm really going to nail the delivery. You'll be in stitches. A talking bucket, you'll say? How ridiculous. How absurd. What a hilarious concept. The king of comedy. That's what you'll call me. Thank goodness we had the instructional video. Otherwise, who knows where we'd be right now. Well, I wouldn't be the king of comedy, that's for sure.
See, I'm doing this for your benefit.
The bucket spoke to Stanley.
The bucket spoke.
The bucket spoke. Oh, I'll figure it out on the fly. No need to overthink things.
Haven't done this before.
Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on the left.
Did I ruin his joke? Oh.
What? We're back at the phone already? No. What's going on? There were supposed to be several rooms leading up to this. There was supposed to be a build-up to this point, a dramatic display of remarkable comedic wit which culminates in this scene with the phone. But now the timing's completely off. The joke will never land. Well, not the way it was meant to. And it's all my fault. I must have forgotten that the phone room comes immediately after the two doors room. What an egregious mistake. I've made a fool of myself. I don't deserve the title of King of Comedy. I'm nothing. I'm not even the lowliest joke-telling whelp. I think I need to go back and rewatch that instructional video again.
No, I'm ready to pick up the phone.
Surely that will help me improve my... Here we go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of two open doors, they entered the door on the left.
Am I in a loop?
What? We're back at the phone already? No.
Okay, yeah, this is the same loop as
Here
the
we
beginning.
go. You ready? When Stanley and the bucket came to a set of 2 open doors, they entered the door on the left. No. You were supposed to go through the door on the right, leading back to the phone. Did you not even look at the instructional video? I think this is all covered very clearly. There's no way I can make the comedic timing work now. It's done. The joke is completely done and over. It's all your fault, Stanley. I'm going to be ridiculed in the community of other joke writers. I'm going to be shamed at every one of our meetings from now on. All because you couldn't watch a simple video and take a hint. Are you proud of yourself for bringing me down, Stanley? Are you proud?
Stanley, you love the bucket so much it's like you... it's as though all of your other most prized possessions pale in comparison. Yes. Well, let me try that again, Stanley.
Hey, we got this one again.
I heard that you are pale with shame over how unabashedly in love with a bucket you are. No? Still not? Is it the delivery? Pale with shame. Pale with shame? Pale...
It doesn't even have a
Another word to
bucket.
describe a bucket. Stanley, this bucket is so metal. I think I saw it playing guitar. No. We're getting away from making fun of Stanley's obsession with the bucket, which was the whole point of this. I'm no good at these jokes. I need more instructional videos. That's exactly what it is. That's what will make me the king of comedy again. More instructional videos. Let's see.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Is Stanley, without the bucket, really Stanley at all? No, surely not. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest... But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
I know there was another ending like that, because I did it before. In the past. I don't know what the significance of the blue room was. Unless I messed something up.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death. The door behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
So, okay, so we did that comedy ending. I was gonna do a reset till I saw the blue room.
But of course, Stanley and the Bucket thought nope, it's death for Stanley and the Bucket.
She did say something about resetting the game, yes. So we can try that. Maybe. Because we've already seen the museum. I'll walk backwards into hell, not knowing when my time will come. But going there all the same.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley and the Bucket inched closer to their demise, Stanley reflected on how meaningless the Bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be. To be sure, it puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the Bucket, but what use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is what Stanley thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket everywhere. Farewell, Stanley.
"Farewell, Stanley," cried the narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an end as it was crushed violently to death. It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that all buckets are radiant in their own way, but this one stood above the rest. It was a glorious bucket to behold.
So I've gone through this before. Kind of go through this as fast as possible.
Can you see how arrogant it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his own? Can you see the hubris that blinded him? Can you see that the bucket is No man can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is man who should kneel before the bucket. But there is something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong. Let Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine. Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket. We can save the world's buckets from their treatment as tools and implements if only we let Stanley die together. The bucket shall take its place as ruler, as leader, as commander of a new world, a new vision.
Just a step through this door, Stanley thought to himself, that's all I need. If I can make it through this door, I can make it through them all.
Okay, there's no input again. I'm gonna go and reset. Completely. See what that time thing is again. He said, "Thank you for setting the time. Next time, set it to, whatever you want." Your favorite time of day? You bet. Or could you simply not resist giving me the correct time again? After all, I know how much you enjoy setting the time correctly. Okay, now I'm curious how accurate 746 is. Let's use another slider to find out. I'm having a great time adjusting these settings. I think I'm learning a lot about you and how you like things to be set. It's good to collect data. Wish we had more sliders. We've gone through all the sliders I have. Perhaps I can invent some new sliders to gather new data on you. Shouldn't be too hard. Yeah, let me whip up a couple new ones. Should be ready by the next time you boot up the game. Well, still don't change the clock in-game.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. As Stanley lifted his bucket, he felt a connection to all buckets everywhere. This adventure, he decided, was for all of them.
Let's do it again. Sorry for the flashbang, but this game, for whatever reason, wouldn't capture the actual game, so I'm having to do a monitor capture, which is annoying. The dog and the cat are friends. To the number 5 comes the number 9. Nine. B. Which of the two made-up words are most appealing to you? Scrumtush. Do you know what time it is right now? Yes, I do. Is the time that it is right now the correct time? What time is it, anyway? Yes. Is there anything about yourself you haven't told me? Come back to visit me? Yes. Again, I keep expecting there to be something weird in these settings. Another flashbang. Is there anything new? Am I gonna have to do those every time? What time is it? Does anyone really, truly know? Of course they don't. Nobody knows anything. You and I don't even know each other. We're like strangers. Sure, I've adjusted all the game settings to be your exact specifications, but who hasn't? It's just what I do, like any day job. And now, the job is over. There's no more information for me to gather. I've collected all the data on you that I can. I still don't really know you. And you don't know me. And neither of us know what time it is. I guess some settings are just unsettable. But if I'm being totally honest, the clock doesn't do anything in the game anyway. You won't have me here when the game starts next time, but that's okay. Video games were meant to be played alone. You like being alone, don't you? Maybe that's the only information I really learned about you. Well, it's time for me to leave. There's one more setting that we need to adjust, but it may take a little more time before I'm ready for that. It's not really in my job description, but that's okay. Perhaps you'll see me again, if you can find me. Talk soon. Epilogue. Like how jump is set as space. Epilogue. Many years later. It's weird that this is the first ending I got. Really. I was tempted to make an Outer Wilds joke, yes. But I think I made one already. This stream. Loving memory. Stanley Parable 2. Cookie9's blog. Like so many, I enjoyed my time with the original Stanley Parable, which underscores how truly disappointed I am in its sequel. The first game teamed with originality. Stanley Parable 2 is dull, uninspired, and often insulting to its fanbase. Rather than expand on what made the first game enjoyable, the sequel veers off into territory no one asked for. An infinitely deep hole? Who cares? Where are the new endings? What about enjoyable bits from the Stanley Parable 1, like the adventure line? Instead, we get uninspired side quests collecting figurines. Even this diversion feels incomplete. Clicking all the figurines gives you nothing. I must say, though, I found the bucket to be quite comforting. A welcome reprieve from archives. cat dog born. Scientists confirm hybrid species. Cat dog. Cat dog. No more spin-offs, no more sequels. It's clear that more Stanley Parable is not what the fans want. Though it would be... We had a vision for the series that the players would be excited about, yet it turns out this could not have been further from the truth. The press release goes on to promise, preserve the artistic integrity of the original game, and stop assaulting fans with our reckless and insulting creative visions. The word sorry appears more than 25 times in the press release. Is this the Jim button?
Jim. Stanley.
Look at them all. Thank you for enjoying the new content. Hello again. It's nice to see you. But it's terrible to learn that there will never be another Stanley Parable game. Did you read what the developer said? Preserve the integrity of the franchise? What nonsense. The Stanley Parable is not secret. We do not need to protect it. Screw the legacy. Let's keep making Stanley Parable games until the sun explodes. Let's run this franchise into the ground. Let's drag it through the muck and back. And if people hate it, who cares? You see, that was the narrator's problem. He was so obsessed with what people thought of his work. Don't make his mistake. Don't cling to the legacy. Let it burn. It's not hard. In fact, let me show you. Together, we are going to make the Stanley Parable 3. It's simple. All we do is change the number on the game's title screen. You also really need to make a dumb subtitle for the game. Something loud and gaudy. Go ahead, try combining some random words together. Make a new title for our game. One with the danger of wacky. The original, spectacular, the ghoulish. I was gonna do the original sequel, but I don't know if that makes too much sense, right? How about this? One with the gun. Spectacular sequel. It's absurd. I love it. Every time you restart the game, we'll advance the number of sequel by 1, and then we'll pick a new subtitle. That way, the Stanley Parable will never end. Nothing in the game itself will change when you do this either. Adding more content sounds like work. No need to do that. It'll just be the same content recycled again and again and again, with a new title screen. What do you say? Should we go forward with this plan? I like it, but I want you to have a say as well. Good. That's agreed. A new sequel every time you start the game. And you know what? Since you've put faith in my idea, I feel like giving you something as well. You see, I'm noticing that the narrator never found a way to give you the broken achievement, did he? Of course not. I wouldn't expect him to know how. It's been bothering me. Let's fix it. Alright there. The achievement machine is all fixed. You see, I'm on your side. We're in this together. I'm going to keep this train rolling. The Stanley parable cannot end. It can only spiral in on itself, forever. I must keep the wheel turning. I'm ready. Are you ready? Great. There's only one last thing we need to do. Please enter the current time. Please enjoy the Stanley Parable.